Hi, I'm Angel Leya, and I'm back with another plotting episode. Last time I kind of tried to solidify my main ideas for Illumia, which I kind of had in mind, but you know, just kind of talking it out, trying to flesh it out a little bit. I have it at let's see, starting at the with Life at the Castle in Illumia. And then Estrella is going to have an attempt made on her life. And then she's going to go through the Dragonlands. And then she's going to, at the 50% mark with Windmane, going to be in the Unicorn Fields. And it's going to be his arc there, where he left the herd himself because he didn't want to be a stud for the unicorns. He just didn't feel like that was the life for him. So then after that, we're going to be in the fairy forests, and Gander is going to show up. He's been following them, I think is how I wanted it to go. He's going to be following them, and he's battling his addiction. He's still kind of on Shia's side, but he's feeling the pressure to move off of her side. And then at the 75% mark, it'll be the Moon Owls and discovering where they're hidden. And it's going to be a magical network of caves, I believe, and she's going to have to battle her way out of the caves. Windmane can come and go as he pleases because he's a unicorn, but the Moon Elves are stuck. Some ebb and tide of the moons their moon magic is working against them. And then they go back to Illumia and realize that, well, of course she is behind it all. So now I found this thing which is interesting. If you've ever read oh gosh, I'll put it in the link, but it's a book about Harry Potter and why it was so popular, basically. And the guy breaks down the Harry Potter series into different things, but the sequence he said was you start at one point, then escape, then there's a mystery, a crisis, a descent into something, kind of a burial, combat, and then return to the original point, and a revelation. And then there's imagery to go with it. And he uses alchemy, alchemical symbolism to compare it, saying that some of the books are black and some of them are white and some of them are red, and you can kind of see, I guess, how that plays out with, you know, red being like fire and burning and consuming and stuff, and white being cleansing, and then black being darkness and stuff. Not necessarily bad, but just really intense. Something about gold. I don't remember all the details, but using the symbology, and this basic outline of how to progress the events, I realized that I could totally fit Illumia into it, and so I did that, and I was like, well, I can use that same pattern for the next two books. So, which I think I'm going to stick with that plan. So, in the first book, she starts at the village, and Estrella's life is in danger because of the famine, and then the unicorn's life is in danger because she catches him, and then everyone else's life is in danger because if they eat the unicorn, they'll be cursed. So Estrella takes the unicorn and flees. That's her escape. then the mystery is who she is and why can she hear the unicorn, basically, which that ends up being she's part moon elf. The crisis is when she finds out she's part moon elf, she's an outsider and a freak. Not only being a moon elf kind of disqualifies her from being part of the band because you have to be full redhead in order to survive in the mist. But being a half-blood is looked down upon. The races aren't supposed to mix, kind of thing. So, so she's like really freaked out because she's nothing who she thought she was. The descent is going through the dragon range in this one. She goes underneath the mountains. Combat is actually with a dragon. And that's her combating with her destiny as leader of the mythics, mouthpiece of the mythics at this point. And when she comes out of that, she actually also has to, well, she's battling for her life. And then when she comes out of the dragon range, she's captured and she has to battle for her life again because she has to prove that she's part moon elf. Which she does actually more than that. And then her return is, in this case, she's going to Illumia. So it's not actually a return to where she started from, but she's gonna kind of go back and forth between Illumia and her village. So, well, not exactly, sort of, but it'll come back around. And then her revelation in the first book is that she feels just as out of place in Illumia as she did anywhere else. So far, she's not feeling she's not feeling the love. That book was very gray because they're going through the mist and stuff, so it's gray days and gray this and gray that, which is kind of a nod to the black. And of course, the moon and sun, which represent the moon elves, and the humans are represented by the sun. And she's a mix of both moon and sun, so she's got a power that's different in many ways, because in my mind the humans had magical powers before. This is like history stuff. Before the three mages came together and kind of wiped out the power. It was becoming too powerful. It was becoming crazy, and they created a crater that the dragon range surrounds. They created that crater, and the crater filled up with mist as a result of this kind of catastrophic event. In them trying to end the war and diffuse some of the magic so that it wasn't as powerful. So that's history stuff. But so in book 2, I'm going to follow the same basic outline. So she starts in Illumia. Her life is in danger from an unknown source, which is going to be Shia. She's going to fight it at first, but then she's going to realize that she does have to escape because an actual attempt on her life is going to be made. So she flees, takes the unicorn again, and her dad, this time, her real birth dad. And Gander's going to follow them under Shia's instructions. So then the mystery is going to be, where do the moon elves go? She's trying to, what happened to them? They've been disappearing for a while, and it's to the point where nobody knows where any of them are. They're all gone or dead or something. They've just disappeared. So the crisis is going to be, who can she trust? She's traveling with her dad. She's traveling with Windmane. She's traveling with Gander. Windmane's going to be the closest thing to trust that she has, but everybody has their own agenda. Her dad kind of designed her in a way to be mouthpiece to the mythics and try to usurp Shia. he saw the moon elves disappearing, and he knew someone had to come to an age where they could go to the castle and possibly be protected. But he underestimated Shia's influence, and that's why that's why she's still in danger anyways. And then Gander, of course, is addicted to Shia's dragonfey dust, so, you know, obviously there's going to be some conflict of interest there. So she's distrustful for a reason. The descent is going to be where the moon elves are, and I originally didn't know what to do with them, but I'm thinking either a mountain or like a cave network under the earth, probably under the earth, is what I'm thinking, so it's not always mountains. So she's going to have to go down into the caves to rescue the moon elves, but she's going to find out that she can't rescue all the moon elves, and in fact her dad gets stuck, but she is able to, her combat is with the magic of the mountain, and she's able to release herself, but not her dad. So her and Windmane can escape. Gander is going to part ways with her because he has his own problems to deal with, which I don't know, that might end up having to be a novella, like a side novella thing to do that. If I want to go into Gander's quest to rid himself of the dragonfey dust addiction, because that's gonna be a ton of research trying to figure out how to tackle that. It's so funny because I never started out wanting to have addiction in my novel, but it just kind of happened. Alright, so then she returns to Illumia, and the revelation, of course, is that Shia is the one behind the moon elf disappearance, and she's disappeared. When they get back to Illumia, they go back to confront her, and she's disappeared, and nobody knows where she's gone or why. So that's going to lead into the next book. Alright, so the next book, they start in Illumia. Shia needs to be stopped, obviously, and they escape. It's not so much escape as it's them just leaving, but Windmane and Gander and Estrella all set out to find Shia. So at this point, Gander's going to have his ties broken with Shia. So yeah, that's going to be like probably the second half of the novel, second half of the second novel, where he's going to have to isolate himself and kind of detox. That's the word. Alright, the mystery is where did Shia go and why, which is presented at the end of book 2, but it's still usable. Alright, the crisis, Estrella doesn't feel she's strong enough to defeat Shia. She feels like she's up against incredible odds. She's now without parent again, because she lost her birth dad, and she had to leave behind her mama and papa when she left the village in the first book, and then she loses her birth dad in the second book to the mountain. He's not dead, but she can't access him. She's cut off from him, and so she's isolated again. She's just really feeling like she doesn't have what it takes to defeat Shia. She is just too clever, and she is one step ahead of her all the time. The descent is going to be, they're going to go back to the Dragon Range. This time Shia is in the Dragon Range hunting down the magical resonance of the disaster that happened way back in history that caused the mist to form. Because she's trying to siphon it into herself, become the most powerful being in all of Illumia. She wants to control the world. It's not enough to own the mythics, and especially since she got booted from there, she needs all the power, because she's just that insecure in herself and who she is and position. where she belongs and all that. She's trying to force her way into the hearts of everybody, or at least be feared by everybody, to kind of shore up her misgivings about herself. So they're gonna go into the Dragon Range to face off with Shia. Obviously the combat is going to be the final battle with Shia. Come to find out, she's going to have one of the council members with her, and he's on her side. Which I might make him out to be like he's a victim in the third book. But I don't need to plan this out. It's just kind of, I'm just talking it out. Alright, and then after the big battle, Estrella is going to go to her village to check on them, because obviously she hasn't been back for a while. So she goes back to check on them and see how they're doing, because the mist is gone, and you know, she's worried about them. She left them in famine, and she took their last hope of meat. So she goes there to check on them. When she gets there, she's gonna realize that she doesn't belong there anymore, and her parents kind of gently nudge her, and she's going to go back to Illumia. So that's the kind of, it's convoluted back and forth, but it's a back and forth. And then she goes back to Illumia, and her revelation is home is where the heart is, and it's with Gander, obviously, because that's her romantic interest, and Windmane, because that's become her best friend. He's become her best friend, and just being in Illumia and being the voice that the mythics need. And she's going to take that on really fully and accept it at that point. So book 3 is going to be red as far as symbology. Book 2 is white, and just kind of brightness and light and stuff. It's not all good necessarily, but that's going to be the main symbol color, I guess, of that book. And it's going to be, I'll have to find more symbols for that, I think, because in the first one, it's her necklace, too, which is kind of, it almost speaks to her destiny of, it's got the sun and the moon and stars, which is human and moon elf, and then the mythics is what it represents. And so that's kind of, it's kind of representing her as the combination of the sun and the moon, and then taking care of the stars. So yeah, so that kind of breaks it down a little bit further and gets me a little closer to how I want things to progress. It doesn't exactly give you an outline, but it kind of gives you a good idea of where my head is at, as trying to mirror the progression of events in book 1 to book 2 to book 3. So it all kind of has this cohesiveness. As I believe it's Monica Leonel. She wrote Nail Your Story. I'll put that in the link too. And she talks about creating like a cohesive thread, that these threads that kind of tie through the whole story to kind of bring a deeper sense of oh gosh, what does she call it? I want to say revelation or resolution, but it's just a deeper sense of the story to the readers. So yeah, I want to use mirroring methods, anything I can come up with that'll help kind of tie those threads together. You know, everyone dealing with not feeling like they belong in some way or another. Windmane with not wanting to belong because he doesn't want to be like the rest of his herd. Estrella with wanting to belong, and feeling like there's no hope of that ever happening, and Shia with wanting to belong but feeling that the only way to do that is through power, and then Gander, who doesn't care if he belongs, or at least shrugs it off like he doesn't care, but actually he's more desperate than for it than the rest in a lot of ways. He's just not looking for it among the elves, I guess. So, just different things that I think will help. So yeah, I'm gonna start, I think next time, really kind of taking these elements. Most of this stuff is stuff that I kind of plotted out at the first book. I found the picture that I took and rewrote everything here, and expanded on the third story, because I didn't really have a feel for that because I hadn't gotten through the first. So yeah, expanded on this third story a little bit, and I'm going to take this stuff, I think, and put it in my computer and start seeing if I can come up with a scene list, and just throw out different ideas of what I want to happen, where I want to happen, and how I want to happen. So that's it. See you next time.